Okay, greetings, everybody. It is a real privilege to be here. But before I introduce myself, I want you to meet Read, the first natural language learning platform purpose-built for divergent learners and their families. So it soaks up the language the kids are exposed to wherever they go and transforms it into experiences they can understand and learn from right in the moment. And by the way, I am John Zweifler, founder of Read AI, but my biggest role and the inspiration for Read comes from being a parent to an awesome, verbally challenged, autistic 11-year-old, that handsome little devil. And the reality is, my son is smart as hell, but natural language just doesn't feel that natural to him. And what we all take for granted is that we all learned how to communicate from just watching and hearing our parents in our youngest years. But when someone struggles to learn their first language, the one that makes interacting and connecting with people feel natural, whether that's from developmental delay, dyslexia, ADHD, autism, it creates an understanding gap that is brutal for divergent kids and their families. And there are over 32 million homes in the US spending billions each year on tools and solutions to try and fill those gaps outside of therapy and special ed. Now, don't get me wrong, the practitioners we entrust our kids with are making magic happen. The problem is they can't be everywhere families need them, and that magic becomes hard to sustain and scale. And that is why Read exists, to bridge the gap between the magic of therapy and our everyday divergent lives, turning little family moments into spontaneous reinforcement learning moments. And it's the Read tablet app that serves like Google Translate meets Duolingo for understanding and learning from everyday conversations. So at the breakfast table, on a car ride, learning how to brush your teeth, you talk and Read shows and reinforces that language with research back symbols, sounds, and cues so that what's being said around these kids is more likely to be understood. And therapist trusted reinforcement methods are always a tap away to help that growing language really stick. But this isn't a one trick pony app where you master an exercise and the value starts to fade away. Read meets kids where they are and supports their learning development at every phase. Because the way we see it, kids don't age out of progress. And that progress, big and small, is now made visible across home, school, therapy, letting everyone see what's working, where, and with who. Now, Read was born out of co-design and testing with therapists at the Talk School here in Philadelphia, and we're psyched to be designing pilots with some forward thinkers at Drexel and Boston universities in the coming year. Because at our core, we're here to scale the progress of what's working in the trenches and the promise of what's on the horizon. But we all know the rubber hits the road when you get into everyday homes. And our alpha tester families who are paying to participate are bringing strong signals. But Amanda, Nick's mom, really captures it best. I'm literally in tears. Nick just spoke his first full sentence because of Read. And that's what we mean when we say we're purpose built for divergent families. And our business is purpose built to serve the pent up demand in those households. We're talking about a beachhead of over 13 million Read ready homes and anchoring on a premium price point set at just one third the cost of a single hour of speech therapy. We believe we can conservatively support over a million in ARR in year one and over 20 million by the end of year three. And we make our entrance into the marketplace by sparking a flywheel between the two trust networks that shape decision making for divergent families, other parents like them, and the clinicians they know and trust. There is a ton of untapped value here, and we've got a killer plan on how to harness that. Now, the Read founding team is comprised of product and commercialization vets. At Comcast NBC Universal, I authored their exclusive inclusive design strategy before joining Facebook to lead content sharing experiences across the Meta ecosystem. Rob pioneered LLM retail applications at Nike, and then again, driving R&D with me and Josh at Xfinity. The horsepower here is legit, and the bench is deep with some awesome humans. The person we're seeking next is the right lead investor for our 500,000 safe financed angel round to fund our expansions from private to public betas, which we plan to announce at CES Eureka Park in a few weeks, and harden our product market fit for our general audience launch in June of 26. This round fuels our path from promise to pilot to platform. So Read is more than just another app, folks. It's a bridge from everyday confusion to natural connection for millions of families. And we'd love for you to join us on this journey. So don't be shy about securing your spot on the beta waitlist today.
Woo-hoo. Good job, Jay-Z. That was great. And as always, I love the visuals. Yeah, great presentation. Lauren, questions?
Great job, and obviously bridging a huge gap and a huge need. Um, I guess it seems like people are kind of beating down your door to get access, but as far as kind of long-term growth is,
Mhm.
what are you kind of seeing as the channel partnerships, or who's referring and sending um, families to the platform?
Sure. So the reason why our pricing is set at premium for consumer households and free for therapists, A, we're a public benefit corporation, and if a therapist thinks that this could be a useful tool for their kids, we want them to be unhindered in accessing that. We also want them to be unhindered in referring in their caseloads, which, are conservatively, if you talk about a private therapist, you've got 17 kids in each of those. So that's part one. Part two, and these are both near term, is the established IEP cycle. So you've got these quarterly check-ins where those two trusted cohorts are coming together to talk about what should we do? What could we be doing at home? So there's already an established cadence that we can piggyback on in the near term. In the longer term, it's looking at how we go from D to C and then really sort of B to B to C. So
Yep.
those therapy networks, talking with our friends at PE so that we start, sort of selling to, 150 clinical locations times N therapists per. But we're also talking with school districts who actually reached out to us. That was part of more of our year three plan. But yeah, this gap is pervasive. There's a lot of demand for it. The thing that we're really keen about, that's really a core principle, is we want to be very intentional about really landing product or problem product fit at scale for these different areas. It's never going to be as easy as like, oh, cool, we cracked it for one-on-one therapy. So let's like toss it in a classroom or throw it in a home. That's what our betas are really focused on now is how do we ensure that the tech capabilities that are holding up really nicely and being really flexible can be featureized and focused per those contexts the way we need them to.
And sorry, I'm gonna ask a kind of a follow-up
Sure.
question. Is it on your roadmap to consider thinking about how you all can get reimbursed or paid just as therapy hours do? Or is that kind of on the roadmap, or is it really thinking about going through the therapist first?
No, the near term, so near term meaning at our general audience launch, we will ensure that we can make it easy for HSA and FSA to be able to take
Okay.
advantage of when you're referred through a therapist. But longer term, it's really about starting to get into those clinics and clinical networks so that we're getting a large enough amount of data that we can go to the
Yeah.
states and it's a grueling process. I understand you sort of got to go state by state, but
Yep.
it's worth it as well as those as we fall into the learning sort of domain, those state educational savings plans that are now becoming more pervasive. So
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in finding the right paths to the right commercial paths that help us grow so that we can continue. This is going to be a moving target, this problem space, problem for a long time. If it stops, I am cool. That's a great problem to have, but we're also accounting for the need to continue R&D year over year for some time to
Yeah,
sort of really differentiate.
that makes sense. Thank you.
Sure.
Great job, Jay-Z. That was fantastic. One quick plug for you is if anybody in the audience is interested, like once you see the demo, I think there's a huge unlock that's happened. I've seen it happen for multiple people when we're on calls. So highly recommend if there's any interest here, like reach out to Jay-Z. It'll blow your mind. It shows that you guys are at the highest level of product design. It's great. My question though is,
Mm.
and I think this gets lost sometimes in the pitch, but like this is research backed. Can you tell me more about that research and some of the efficacy there?
Sure. So it's very important to call out and make clear that Read is a medium, not a method, which is to say we are taking the research and evidence-based methods that are working with licensed therapists, what have you, and we are making them more accessible to a broader range of people. So the efficacy, the types of things that we're working on with like Drexel and BU is about how much more effective is this medium in delivering those methods. But the methods themselves are proven. I'm not a speech and language pathologist. I just play one on TV. I am not trying to assert sort of like a new intervention. But the what we did do intentionally is to ensure that the tech is designed in a flexible enough way so that it's not, again, that one trick pony of like, well, it does this one thing, but now the gold standard is this, or we need to start suppressing this and be proactively surfacing that. Those are the types of sort of pipes and cogs that we've been focused on under the hood to sort of keep us defensible and differentiated moving forward.
That's awesome. Thanks for that clarification, Jay-Z, and really great presentation.
Okay, greetings, everybody. It is a real privilege to be here. But before I introduce myself, I want you to meet Read, the first natural language learning platform purpose-built for divergent learners and their families. So it soaks up the language